Shalom everybody, it's Kalila Kelly, your Irish Jew, and tonight I'm just going to look at some headlines in the world of Jewry and being Jewish and or Israeli. On the weekend I did the City to Surf run in Sydney in Australia, and I was part of thousands and thousands of people, and I was part of a very small group who were essentially pro-Israel, pro-Jewish and anti-Islamist and anti-Semitic, or rather anti-Semitic, ha ha ha. And we went for a run, and on the bridge there was a group of pro-Palestinian Niks, or Hamasniks I like to call them, or Palestinian Action Group type people with their big Sanction Israel posters and their drums and their tins and calling out to everyone running past. So they were politicizing an event that shouldn't have been politicized. I wasn't politicizing it when I ran with my group. I was just saying, hey, as someone living in Australia, I don't appreciate anti-Semitism. You know, as both a Jew and as an Irish woman, I don't appreciate it. And yet they had brought in that politics. So it was really unpleasant, and I hate it. I don't want that in my society. I don't want that in my city or my country. But that's something that the Palestinian, Qatar-based, funded, blah, blah, blah. It's what that group is obsessed with and what they are interested in, which is a takeover of the West, really. Israel's just the first of many chess pieces that these people want to get rid of. I've said it so many times. Lots of people are saying it. After the Saturday people, it'll be the Christians and the Sunday people, as it were. So, you know, I got an Israeli flag on the way, and I was honoured to walk with an actual Israeli who was this short, tiny woman who, you know, this is why Jews survive, because of women like this woman that I walked or ran with. They are so strong, tiny, outnumbered, but so stubborn and so strong and practical and very warm-hearted. I find Israelis very, very warm-hearted, even though they're quite strict and gung-ho. And so there was a lot of love, and absolutely, you know, if you're outnumbered, who cares? Doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean your enemy is right. And it doesn't mean that you should shy away from what you believe in just because you are in the minority. Certainly that's part of the Jewish narrative, the Jewish story, is to be in the minority all the time, and yet to be so profoundly important and relevant in the scheme of things, in the scheme of world events. It's just the magic of being Jewish, and the burden, I suppose. Anyway, I'm going to look at some titles on MSN and other media websites, so I'm just going to have a look. As a Jewish woman, looking through the titles. Here we go. Depravity and lawlessness. U2 speak out on Israel's actions in Gaza. Here we go. Irish rockers U2 have spoken out on the Israel-Palestine crisis, with Bono saying that Benjamin Netanyahu's actions now feel like uncharted territory. Well, they are, I suppose, in a way, because Netanyahu is stepping forward in a time of war and in a world that's going completely mental with anti-Semitism across the diaspora, across the Middle East, where it's been there for centuries, and across the West again. And yeah, it is uncharted territory in the sense that I think conservatives and nationalists in Israel are starting to say, why are we still capitulating? Why are we still walking on eggshells, psychologically speaking? Now, some of you might say, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You've got bombs, you've got weapons, you've got armors, you've got the IDF. What do you mean you're walking on eggshells? I mean, absolutely walking on eggshells psychologically. I think that because Israel has a moral compass, it keeps trying to do the quote-unquote right thing, and it keeps bringing in a kind of Western obsession with nuanced morality that, quite frankly, just doesn't work in a Middle East context. And yes, for all of you haters out there, Israel is part of the Middle East, the Levant. It is Semitic. It is part of a non-Western reality where the laws of politics are violence and strength. I mean, look at what's happening to the Druze. I saw a video clip the other day of these poor women and this little baby girls, toddlers, that these psychopathic ISIS Islamists from Syria are running in and kidnapping, calling them concubines. Yes, 3-year-olds are called concubines. So these men are going to go and rape these women and probably start raping the girl, maybe at the age of 3 or when she's a bit older. These poor, beautiful Druze women who were kidnapped and are now sex slaves, much like the Yazidi women were enslaved by ISIS, a few years ago, and have shown up in the most random of places, including, I think, Turkey. Turkey smuggled some Yazidi sex slaves into Gaza. It's so sick and it's so immoral and grotesque. The West is excuse my French, the West is a joke, an effing joke. So behind the times. And so you too, Bono, once again behind the times too. What a joke. And uncharted territory means Netanyahu is stepping into his leadership and taking it to the next level. Uncharted territory, because quite frankly, you two, the charted territory that we've seen for the last 70, 80 odd years is Israel constantly coming to the table and saying, sure, okay, have some land, leave us alone. You have your land, we'll have our land, let's do it. Countless times the Palestinian leadership have been offered land. You have land, we have land, everyone's happy, peace, peace, peace. But they don't accept it. Every single time the Palestinians have rejected it, manipulated people by using their children and their women and their citizens. And the charted territory has gotten us nowhere. The conversation and the endless weaponization of our empathy and our sympathy and coddling, really, of the Palestinian movement as if they are babies and idiots that we have to condescend to nobly assist, as they constantly refuse peace, as they continuously refuse to live alongside Jews. That's all this is. As they constantly enable and fund these bastards, you are literally making the problem worse and prolonging it. These Palestinians could have lived side by side with Jews, much as Arab Israelis do in Israel. And they are the most pro-Israel they've ever been. Arab Muslims in Israel. They are Israeli and they are pro-Israel more than ever. And you will see them defending the IDF. You will see them defending the society that they live in. It's proof. Israel is literally proof already that Jews and Muslims can live side by side happily, with respect, with coexistence. It's Gaza. It's the Palestinian movement that simply will not come to the table, that will not live with Jews. Because it's not about the land, and it's not about housing and tunnels and this and that. It is about an ideology that says we hate Jews and we simply cannot allow them one foothold in the Holy Land. We have to get rid of them, preferably kill them all so that the end times will come. And we can't have the end times and we can't all go to heaven and be happy and have an Islamist paradise across the whole world if there are still Jews. Because Jews prove that for some reason they're still chosen, they still exist, even though continuing revelation has given us Christianity and then the perfect religion, Islam. After which you don't need any more revelation. It's the answer to every single question you could possibly have about life and existence and reality. And therefore the Jews are like an annoying stick in the mud. They're like a little thorn in our side. We have to kill them. That's the mentality of the Islamists. And Hamas have said this multiple times. And the Muslim Brotherhood and all of them. It's the... God. The 4 members of U2 wrote personal responses to Israel's actions in Gaza. What do you think you're going to achieve, Bono? What do you think an Irish musician is going to achieve in Gaza? Do you honestly think they give a shit about what you think? It is so indulgent and it's so boring by now, and it hasn't affected or helped anybody positively. If you want to help Palestinians, get rid of Hamas, put pressure on them, ask for the hostages back. After his condemnation of Hamas's diabolical actions, Bono turned his focus to the Israeli government, which he said today deserves our categorical and unequivocal condemnation. So he's equating them as equal to each other? I don't get it. There's no justification for the brutality Netanyahu and his far-right government have inflicted on the Palestinian people. Who's far-right? It's Hamas. But you see, he's already dealt with Hamas. He's condemned Hamas, but that's all. Let's move on. Let's move on to Netanyahu. That's the juicy bit. I would love to see long form comments on Hamas. I would love to see Hamas given the same moral duty and responsibility that you two are giving to the Israelis. Seriously, if you really want equality between Palestinians and Israelis in the sense of being treated equally and fairly as people with agency, then you have to acknowledge the agency of Hamas. You can't just brush over it and then be like, yeah, that was bad what they did. But the real bad ones, the real baddies are Netanyahu. It's this pathetic kind of psychology. It's kind of like when you have kids and one kid will behave very badly, usually with the parent that it knows won't really get them into trouble and at the end of the day loves them and won't hurt them. But they behave very differently with the parent who gets the hand out and starts whacking them or hitting them. And in this analogy, the child playing up are the Westerners playing up because they know Israel won't do anything to them. And they know deep down that Israel is westernized in the sense that it has many facets of our moral culture. And it knows deep down that Hamas are completely unreasonable, and so they won't reason with Hamas. They're very well behaved with Hamas. They won't even bother to analyse the behaviour of Hamas. It's just sort of brushed over and not mentioned. It's let's dialogue with and criticise and endlessly critique the side of the battle, Israel, that is easy to do so because we know, at the end of the day, they're not going to really do anything to us. Not just since October 7, well before it too, though the level of depravity and lawlessness we are seeing now feels like uncharted territory. What is depraved about Israel and lawless? What specifically? He continued. Of course, Bono continues. Netanyahu announces military takeover of Gaza City, which most informed commentators understand as a euphemism for the colonization of Gaza. Colonization for who? For what empire? There is no Israeli empire, so how can they be colonizing on behalf of that empire? And how can they be colonizing an area of land that historically was theirs first? That would make the Arab invaders the colonizers, which they actually were. In the 8th and 9th centuries, it was the Arab Palestinians, the Arab Muslims that came from Saudi Arabia and invaded. Yeah. Colonization of Gaza. In the same way that Gazans colonized Gaza when they uprooted all of the Jewish families and forced them away from Gaza, their ancestral homeland. Literally, Israel uprooted Jews from Gaza. Was that a form of colonization or decolonization? What was that about? Blah, blah, blah. Bono, I don't care. Let's go to the next story, shall we? Have a look. Palestinian supporters protest at gates of Pine Gap Intelligence Facility. Man, they get around. Woo, let's do this. It's in Alice Springs. It's a secretive spy base in Australia. And presumably they think that, the area is funded by Mossad or something. Palestinian Authority says Australia's recognition will encourage other nations to follow. Well done. So you're going to reward terrorists for basically starting a war, and you're going to reward them with a statelet, which will make them even more powerful and less likely to give up the hostages and less likely to give up their power, and then more likely to continue using children as human shields, and then more likely to be using propaganda, and then more likely to be continuing their unmitigated, non-stop warfare against Jews. Bravo, Australia. So bold, so smart, so brave. Israel-Palestine conflict has caused division within Australian communities, as it has in Irish communities and English communities and French communities, every community. Labor Cabinet Minister Joel Fitzgibbon says the Israel-Palestine conflict is causing division within local Australian communities, and here's a very good photograph, probably Melbourne, where there were neo-Nazis, apparently. Well done, Melbourne. You see, bringing them out of the woodwork. I agree with that. It's I saw that again at the race in Sydney, and it was the Palestinians who were completely gate crashing and politicizing the event, and it's pathetic, and it's like. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Yeah, just what can you do? What can you do? The idiot Prime Minister thinks that by recognizing a Palestinian state, they will give the people peace and food and all of this stuff, and that, of course, Hamas won't be involved. Well, how are you going to get rid of Hamas? You're going to give them a state. You're going to hold Israel's hands behind its back after it's been attacked and is declaring war back on the terrorists who started the war first. And you're going to isolate Hamas. How? It'd be just so ludicrous. Again, the stupidity and the vapidity and the idiocy of these Western nations and leaders who completely remove the agency of Hamas and of Islamists and of extreme Muslims, removes their own agency, the very thing that they've been telling us since 9/11 for the last 20 odd years, that we mustn't remove the agency of individual Muslims, that they are people with brains and hearts and minds and ideas and individuality. And okay, let's give that context, let's give that agency where agency is due. And Hamas have made it really clear that they're never going to stop trying to kill Jews. So if you're going to recognize a state right now with Hamas still in place, and they're not going to go anywhere, and you're not going to get rid of them, you stupid idiot. If you're really going to do that, what you're basically saying is, yeah, let's kill Jews. That is the logical connection. That is the logical argument. And if you really think that, if you really think that Palestine deserves a state now, and if you are stupid enough to think that it won't go down the path of Hamas and radicalization again, then you are an enemy of Jews and you are anti-Semitic. And you are going to support the targeted attack of Jews. That's the reality. That's the connection. That's the truth. Get rid of Hamas, and then we can talk. Return the hostages. End of. Anyway, that's my rant over. Hope you have a wonderful night. Tra-la-la-la-la. Take care. Stay safe. Shalom.